UFC 269, Draftkings has released the salary so we could take our first look. You can call me Kunith, let's make some money this week. Last week was rough. I got destroyed. But now we have a pay-per-view, we have a lot of fights to work through, and I'm excited to get back on track this week. This is the first look, where we go over the slate fighter by fighter, salary by salary, and talk about spots that we like and spots that we don't like. And if you've been enjoying the content at all, please make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, that way I can bring more of this to you. At the top of the slate you have Amanda Nunes, she's 9,500. If I bet against the GOAT, I might as well delete the YouTube channel. Amanda Nunes, as always, a great play. She has 5 rounds to work here, and I think she's live for a finish as well. And 9,500 seems like a lot, but don't let the price tag scare you off. As we play more MMA DFS, we start to realize that salary doesn't matter all that much. The optimal lineup last week would have left 2,900 salary on the table, so just keep that in mind when you're building your lineups. There is value toward the bottom of the slate more often than not. And as far as this fight goes from a stacking perspective, I'm not going to be doing that. I think Juliana Pena is very scrappy, but she's got nothing for the Lioness. I think that Amanda Nunes could close her out early, close her out late, but I don't think Juliana Pena is going to score that many points to make stacking this fight a viable option. So the pick is Amanda Nunes, the GOAT. At 9,400, we have Bruno Silva. He's fighting Jordan Wright, and this should be a banger. Bruno Silva has looked great in his 2 UFC fights, picking up a round 1 knockout over Wellington Turman, which he did from a full guard. That's very rare in MMA. We don't see that a lot, but even with short shots, he was still heavy-handed enough to put him away. In his fight with Andrew Sanchez, he was dominated for 2 rounds, with Sanchez securing a ton of takedowns, but Silva poured it on late and got the knockout finish again. The power is undeniable. On the other side, you have Jordan Wright, who carries a ton of power as well. The Beverly Hills Ninja has a lot of first-round knockouts on his record, but my problem with Jordan Wright is that he's not the most durable. Now, both of these men are going to land, there's no question. The question is, can Jordan Wright trade shots with Bruno Silva? I don't think so. Bruno Silva looks like a great play to me. I think he's very live for a knockout inside of the first round. If not, we know that he carries that power late into the fight. We saw that against Andrew Sanchez, so give me Bruno Silva. The one concern I would have with Bruno Silva is that he doesn't have great takedown defense, but Jordan Wright's not going to be looking to take this fight to the ground. So the pick is Bruno Silva inside the distance. At 9,300, you have Jillian Roberts. She's fighting Priscilla Cachoeira, and how can you not love Jillian Roberts this week? She's got the edge in UFC experience, she's training out of American Top Team, and it looks like she has a grappling advantage. If you look on her Tapology page, you'll see she's had a number of submission grappling competitions recently, and while she's not winning all of them, she's getting time on the mat, and that's what's important. That is what you want to see from her. She's 26 years old, still young in this game, and working on the best part of her game, which is jiu-jitsu. Priscilla Cachoeira, at 33 years old, is not doing these things. She had a win over Gina Mazzani earlier this year, but Mazzani gassed hard after securing 4 takedowns. If Mazzani was able to take her down that easily, Robertson should have no problem doing the same. The pick is Jillian Roberts, secure takedowns, control time, ground and pound, potentially finish this fight as well. Next, you have Alex Perez. He's coming in at 9,200, and he's fighting Matt Schnell. Perez is going to have a slight height and reach disadvantage, but he's obviously the better fighter. His only 2 losses in the UFC have come to Joe Benavidez and Davison Figueiredo, elite flyweights. Now he's fighting Matt Schnell, who is notoriously chinny and pretty one-dimensional. He just wants to keep the fight standing. Alex Perez, on the other hand, can get it done on the feet or change levels and get this fight to the ground. So for those reasons, I like Alex Perez this week, and he may even be a sneaky low ownership play. People in your contests are going to flock to the 5-round fights and to Bruno Silva and Sean O'Malley, so at this price, Perez could go under the radar, and those are the guys that we always get annoyed with because we didn't think to play them, and they show up on the winning lineup. Alex Perez looks like a fine play at 9,200. And for the price of 9,100, you get another episode of The Sugar Show. It's always a good time. Sean O'Malley's fighting Jillian Paiva, and this looks like a free square. Just play Sean O'Malley. It might be worth it to roster him in all of your lineups, even if you're playing some larger field stuff. Jillian Paiva is extremely hittable, and he tends to march forward, not really respecting the power that's coming back his way. He's in great shape and can normally get away with this, but not against somebody like Sean O'Malley. Sean might hit harder than anybody at 135 pounds. He has great output, and he's putting on slate-winning performances almost every time he goes out there. What's worked for Raulian Paiva in the past is not going to work on Saturday. Sugar Show is a free square. The pick is Sean O'Malley at 9,100 inside the distance. Randy Costa is 9,000 this week. He's fighting Tony Kelly. Costa is 2-2 in the UFC, losing his debut to Brandon Davis and his most recent fight to Adrian Yanez. These fights played out in similar fashions. Costa was electric in round 1, landing heavy and often, but he couldn't keep that pace in either of those fights and was finished in the second round. In his 2 wins, he finished his opponents quickly. It was one-way traffic for Costa. He's the definition of a boom or bust play, which makes betting on him uncomfortably predictable. You know that storm's coming in round 1. If fights were only 5 minutes, Randy Costa would be undefeated. But they aren't. They're 15 minutes. And by the looks of it, if someone can weather that storm in round 1, they're in a good spot after. Tony Kelly may be one of these guys to do that. The pick for me is Tony Kelly, and we'll talk about him later on. Ryan Hall is 8,900, and this is a fun grappler versus grappler matchup we have between Hall and Darrick Minner. The game plans for this one are obvious. Both of these men want to get the fight to the mat and go after their favorite techniques. Hall loves his leg locks and heel hooks, and Minner is always looking for a choke. He's got a lot of wins by way of triangle, guillotine, and rear naked choke. That's what makes me really comfortable with playing Ryan Hall this week. A grappler like Hall isn't going to be submitted by a guillotine, which is normally a pretty low percentage choke, and I don't think that he's going to let Darrick Minner take his back at any point either. Hall has also gone the distance in some of his UFC fights, even picking up a unanimous decision win over Darren Elkins, who beat Darrick Minner earlier this year. And that's important because we know that Ryan Hall can fight for 15 minutes, and we know that Darrick Minner cannot. Minner has a terrible gas tank, and most of his losses are second-round submissions, not because he's a bad grappler, but because he gasses out and he tends to give up bad positions when he's fatigued. Ryan Hall's already the better grappler. We know that he's got the better gas tank. Let's say the fight stays standing, I think Ryan Hall has an advantage there too. He has a tricky kicking game. He throws a ton of long kicks, spinning technique as well, and he lands at a pretty fair clip. He's pretty accurate with some of this spinning technique. So if this fight goes late, starts at the 3rd round, Darrick Minner's gassed out, I could see Ryan Hall dropping him with a wheel kick and then looking for a submission on top. So the pick is Ryan Hall inside the distance. Josh Emmett is 8,800. He's fighting Dan Ige this week, and personally, not all that high on Josh Emmett. Nearly 37 years old. He's fought once in the last 2.5 years. He was out of competition a lot because of a knee injury, I understand that, but that inactivity does make me a little nervous about playing him. There's a lot being made of his power, but when you look back on some of his fights, it's not that crazy. Since 2018, he was finished by Jeremy Stephens. Yikes, that was the last time Jeremy Stephens has won a fight. He has the knockout win over Michael Johnson, but was 45 seconds away from losing that fight because he was largely outstruck during that fight. He beat Mirsad Bektic, who hasn't won a fight in years, and he has the win over Shane Burgos, where he actually did look really good. But I just think that Dan Ige is too cagey for him. He has a granite chin, solid cardio, can mix in the wrestling, and has sneaky power. I think this is going to be a close fight, but I'm not confident in Josh Emmett, especially at this price. The pick is Dan Ige by decision. Cody Garbrandt is 8,700. He's making his flyweight debut against Kai Kara-France. It's hard to trust Garbrandt nowadays. He's 1-4 in his last 5, with 3 of those coming by way of knockout. But I will say he did eat some solid shots against Rob Font and stayed in the fight for all 5 rounds. So maybe the chin isn't as big of a concern as it once was, but still pretty shaky. He is cutting down to 125, and that extra weight that he's cutting may hurt his ability to take a punch. I think it comes down to hydration. We see guys like Michael Chandler and Dustin Poirier rehydrate effectively, and as a result look massive on fight night. If Cody and his team go about the weight cut and the rehydration the right way, he might be able to bully Kai Kara-France in there. No Love is going to have a 4-inch height advantage, and he should look like the much bigger man in there. Last thing I'll say about this is Kai Kara-France is not exactly a big puncher, but he is fast, so if he can land some combinations, he might be able to get big reactions out of Cody, but let's not forget Cody has great head movement and underrated footwork. The pick is tentatively Cody Garbrandt. I'm not totally sold on it. I think Kai Kara-France has a chance. I think it's really just going to come down to the weight cut. Dustin Poirier is 8,600. He's challenging Charles Oliveira for the lightweight strap, possibly the most challenging championship to capture because of how stacked 155 is. But Dustin Poirier has it all: hips, hands, heart. He can wrestle, he might have some of the best striking in the division, and the man can dig deep. He smoked Conor McGregor twice, went to war with Dan Hooker, outstruck Max Holloway, finished Eddie Alvarez, finished Justin Gaethje. He's a junkyard dog. He's probably going to be the highest owned fighter on the slate because he's in the main event and he looks very live for a finish. And this is his second crack at UFC gold. And Dustin Poirier is a hard-working man. He doesn't want to let an opportunity like this pass him by again. And I like Dustin Poirier a lot, and I know a lot of us have him winning. But I like the champ this week more. The pick is Charles Oliveira, and we'll talk about him a little bit later. Andre Muniz is at 8,500, and at first glance, Andre Muniz looks like the best play on the slate. He has one of, if not the clearest grappling advantage on the entire card. He was supposed to fight Dricus du Plessis, but du Plessis had to pull out with injury, and now he's been gifted your boy Eric Anders. He was probably pretty excited to get that call. His submission grappling is on another planet compared to Eric Anders, and I can see him submitting Eric Anders in this spot. And what I like about Muniz is that he wastes no time once he's in a favorable position, and he will pull an arm, he will grab a neck, he'll grab a knee, grab something real fast, real fast. The line here shows near even, but that means nothing. Eric Anders seems to be a favorite in every fight. If you look on best fight odds and look at just his history of fights, it's crazy. I don't know why Eric Anders is always the favorite. The pick is Andre Muniz. He's 31. He's right in his fighting prime. He's coming off a quick finish over Jacare, so his confidence is probably sky high, and I love him in this spot. At 8,400, you have Miranda Maverick. She's fighting Erin Blanchfield. The line flipped for this fight. It opened as Miranda Maverick being a slight underdog, and now she's a slight favorite. It was plus 135, now she's around minus 150. I'm not confident on either side of this fight. Blanchfield looked good in her last fight. Miranda Maverick really didn't. I actually picked Maycee Barber to beat Miranda Maverick on that night, and I know that the decision was controversial, but watching it, I thought that Maycee Barber did enough. I expect this fight to go the distance. I'm not really going to be targeting this one. The pick is Miranda Maverick. A lot of money's coming in on her. She has fought the higher level of competition, and that experience might be able to just get her the win over the only 22-year-old Erin Blanchfield. So there might be a little bit of learning to do on Saturday night for Erin Blanchfield. I'm not looking to play either of them in this spot. Tai Tuivasa is 8,300. He's fighting Aguso Sakai, and this one looks really obvious. Bam Bam Tuivasa is going to knock out Sakai. Since his loss to Spivak, he's looked great. He dismantled Stefan Struve. He had a quick finish in under a minute over Harry Hansucker. He almost did the same thing to Greg Hardy, dropping him with one punch and then finishing him on the ground. The power is real. Aguso Sakai is a volume fighter. He has decent striking and likes to pour it on late, but I don't think that he has that stinging power that you need to fight somebody like Tai Tuivasa. Sakai was finished in his last two fights, and I think we see more of the same here. It's going to be one of those situations we see all the time where the power advantage is very apparent on one side once they start trading, and I can see him closing out Aguso Sakai inside of round one. And the last thing I'll say about this is Tai Tuivasa doesn't just have big power in his hands, it translates to his legs as well. He lands heavy leg kicks, so if this fight does go late somehow, that's going to pay off also. The pick is Tai Tuivasa inside the distance, and at this price tag, he does make a lot of other things possible for you. Santiago Ponzinibio, he's 8,200 fighting Jeff Neal, and I like Ponzinibio in this spot. He looks to be the sharper striker and does carry solid power in his hands. His win over Miguel Baeza says a lot considering how many strikes he threw. Pressure and output like that will beat Jeff Neal. Neal's gas tank is questionable, in my opinion. He didn't look great late in the Magny fight. He didn't look great late in the Wonderboy fight either. I think the later this fight goes, the better Ponzinibio looks. I think that he's definitely going to win rounds 2 and 3. Jeff Neal does have power. I can see him stealing round 1, but I like Ponzinibio by decision here. I think he's going to take the later rounds, or at least the later minutes. At 8,100, you have Dominic Cruz and Pedro Munoz. They're going to share the salary. What generous guys. This looks like a really obvious spot as well. I think this is going to be a decision win for Dominic Cruz. Pedro Munoz tends to march forward, keep his head firmly planted on that center line, and implement a boxing-heavy approach. He's not really looking to take it to the ground all that often. that plays exactly into Cruz's game. Dominic Cruz is the exact opposite fighter. His footwork is legendary, his head is never on the center line, he throws a lot of strikes from awkward angles, and I think he's going to give Pedro a lot of trouble. Dominic Cruz via decision, I don't think that he'll score all that many points. I don't think that you need to roster him at 8,100, but I like him to win. I don't like Pedro Munoz. I just don't think that he'll be able to figure out the Rubik's Cube that is Dominic Cruz. Jeff Neal at 8,000. I don't hate Jeff Neal. We can't ignore that he is fully capable of chin-checking Ponzinibio just like Li Jingliang did, but it is hard for me to get here just because of the reasons that I stated before. I think he's going to be down on the numbers. I don't think that he has the cardio advantage. Santiago Ponzinibio's crisp. I don't like Jeff Neal in this spot, but I don't hate him if you want to take a shot at 8,000. Not interested in playing Aguso Sakai at 7,900. Erin Blanchfield is 7,800, and I'm going to dig deeper into this one because I would love to play her at this price. A lot of the favorites look really good on this card, and to have some salary relief here, that might be nice. So Erin Blanchfield doesn't look terrible. I'm going to dig deeper on this one, but for now, I am staying away. $7,700 Eric Anders, I'm not interested. $7,600 Charles Oliveira, the best value of the slate. Like I said earlier, I like Charles Oliveira this week, and there are a few reasons why. One is his underrated stand-up. If you just look at the Michael Chandler fight, he got dropped by a bomb in round 1, but when round 2 started, he landed a left hook that was picture perfect. He's extremely technically sound. 2 are his takedowns and ground game. I think if this fight hits the mat, it's over. Charles Oliveira takes the back, ends the fight. And 3, he's the champion. I tend to side with the champ. Also, at his price, he makes a lot of things possible for you in your lineups this week. I like Du Bronx, and still, Kai Kara-France is 7,500. If the weight cut kills Cody, if he looks half dead on the scales, I'm hitting the Kai Kara-France button. Plus, you can expect City Kickboxing to come in with a good game plan. Kai Kara-France has only lost to Brandon Royval and Brandon Moreno, so I wouldn't be shocked if he won here. I still lean toward Cody Garbrandt, but we'll definitely be looking at weigh-ins on this one. I like Dan Ige this week. Again, good cardio, solid chin, good pop on his shots. He's turning 30, so he's just getting into his fighting prime. And last thing I'll say about him is that he tends to win rounds and win decisions when fights are close. He's got a judge-friendly style. Something that he does makes the judges like him, and that's a quality that we look for in fighters that we want to bet on. Again, I think the pick is Dan Ige at 7,400. I think he upsets Josh Emmett. Derek Minner at 7,300. I'm not all that interested. I don't expect him to be able to come in here and submit the Wizard. If he does, it's going to be in the first round. He's going to score a lot of points, and good for you. But I'm not going to be playing him at 7,300. Tony Kelly at 7,200 doesn't look all that bad. How many times have we seen a fighter gas out and lose because of it? It happens pretty often, maybe a few times each card. I think this is one of those spots. Randy Costa's first 5 minutes are hell. But if you can survive that, there is sunshine on the other side of that storm, I promise you. Tony Kelly doesn't need to be perfect for that first 5 minutes. He just needs to be a little gritty. 2 things have never happened. Tony Kelly's never been knocked out. Randy Costa's never won a fight outside of the first round. I think this could end up looking a lot like his fight with Brandon Davis. Give me Tony Kelly this week. I think at 7,200, he is awesome value. Alian Paiva, Matt Schnell, Priscilla Cachoeira, no. Jordan Wright at 6,800, he's always live for a finish. You cannot deny that. He goes out there and he fights for that finish inside that first round. So Jordan Wright, if you want to take a shot at him at 6,800, it's not the worst thing in the world. The worst thing in the world is playing Juliana Pena at 6,500. That's it. That's the first look. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment. These are all things that help the channel. A lot of time goes into this, believe it or not, and if you do those things, I can bring more of this to you at a way higher level. Thank you so much for watching.